ask for us to really strike a balance between the farmer's interest and the financial institution's interest. So, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very, very much for that. Thank you in particular for reminding us that it will be the poor who are affected first and worst by climate change. And of course, the poor did not cause climate change. Talking of causing climate change, I don't know about you, but it's ridiculously cold in this room. I don't know if anyone can do something about that temperature, but my hands are literally freezing, which is a little bit odd in a conference on climate change. I'm going to open up the floor to some questions and some comments. So if we can take 3 or 4 questions or comments, and then if you've got a specific question for a specific person, perhaps you could say the question is for that person. So comments, questions, please. Yeah, at the front.
Just hearing these stories, they're all very. I'm Johan Kies from UNDP Vietnam, working with MPI on climate change mainstreaming in development planning. I would like to know, actually, have a little bit more detail on the financials behind it. What are the expectations? What are the anticipated returns, and how do you think that ongoing climate change will impact on your returns, and how do you think you can cope with it? That's one. The other thing is, to what extent are the recent developments, particularly in East Africa with Safari, com, and where like microfinance transactions are happening over the cell phone network? Are these already applied in the South Asian, Southeast Asia region, and to what extent has that? What extent can it enable wider adoption of microfinance? And the third question, coming back on the insurance microfinance farm development link, are you looking at possibilities to use climate information not only for the purpose of the insurance, but also to facilitate, basically facilitate farm development? So make farmers better aware of climate and make farmers introduce new technologies which might reduce possible risks, and thus enhancing your returns while at the same time reducing vulnerability of farming.
Okay, couple more questions or comments from the floor. Yep, next person.
Yeah. My name is Ancha Srinivasan from Asian Development Bank. I'm looking at this theme, and I understand that most of the presenters have focused on insurance, which is very important, well-recognized mechanism or market-based mechanism. But however, I mean, when we look at the overall international context of market-based mechanisms, I just want to know the views of the panel members as well as provocateur. Can we really think in terms of international or regional market mechanisms? For example, looking into like the concepts proposed by Professor Schellnhuber, talking about adaptation credits or adaptation vouchers as part of developed country commitments, as it could be part of the mitigation commitment or overall commitment. And secondly, within the domestic circle also, can we create a mechanism that is causing vulnerability? For example, a tourism industry forcing people to live in more vulnerable areas. Of course, I mean, can we have some mechanism to compensate? Just like in case of emissions trading, can we think of some market-based mechanism which is causing more vulnerability or forcing people to move to vulnerable areas? And thirdly, I mean, the issue of raising finance like through aviation or maritime emissions, there is a tax that was talked about as part of many discussions, but again, of course, this particular panel may not have considered. So what are your views on that? And finally, within the region, this catastrophic risk insurance facility that was experimented by the World Bank and Caribbean governments in the Caribbean region somehow has not taken off either in the Pacific or in Southeast Asia, although the catastrophic risks are very common in this region. So any reflections on that, why and what can be done by the industry and also the local government, national governments? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think there's quite a few questions there between the two speakers. So maybe I'll start with Rajesh. Do you want to talk about some of the initial questions?
Thank you. The only question I can respond to is on the technology that relates to, are the mobile phones already being used as a channel for microinsurance? Answer is no. These experiments are currently happening in the banking circle. Some pilots are being tested. There's a very interesting dimension to it. In India, the largest music company, the largest company which sells music, is actually a cell phone operator. Through sale of ringtones, through sale of small music clips, etc., etc. So. And the amount of revenue that cell phone company is getting from music is more than what they get from the voice calls. So suddenly, it's a new phenomena. Similarly, it is very likely that the largest bank could actually be a mobile company. The model they are trying is, for example, I am a cell phone owner. I live in a small little village with a population of 200 families. There is nearest ATM is say 50 miles, and nearest bank is say 100 miles, and I need a small amount of finance. I can actually go to the nearest local shop or a neighborhood shop, go and borrow $5 from it, and through my cell phone identity, that $5 actually gets added to my cell phone bill. And hence the payment channel, because a cell phone user already knows how he is settling his bill, and that channel is already established. So this experiment is currently being done in the banking and a cell phone industry jointly. Depending upon how this goes, this could be a channel which may as well spread into microinsurance as well as microfinance.
Okay, thank you. Anyone want to pick up some of the other questions? Thomas?
Yes, there's one question regarding the CCRAF, the Caribbean deal. The statement is actually wrong, because we are on risk. The Caribbean deal is on life. What has changed at the moment is simply also the approach, the model they have used. But the last earthquake we had actually paid a loss, a big loss to Haiti. So it's in place, also for hurricanes as well as for earthquakes. So this is something where I think I should correct, because I know that we are on risk. In respect of the financials and the return, we, as Munich Re, calculate simply on risk-based capital allocated, for example, for climate change related matters. Of course, there is a certain part of uncertainty, and uncertainty is risk, which we have to load on, and we have to put up some loadings. Now, that's exactly the difference. Once I come back to our new launch in Philippines. Usually these micro-insurance initiatives go on a pilot region. So the loadings you have are quite huge, because it's simply, the area is pretty small and you have minor diversification effects. Now in the Philippines approach, we usually operate on a macro scale. This means that we have big diversification effects and the allocated risk capital is minor. So, and this benefit will be passed on to the cooperatives. And this is now the next step. Where is the benefit? The cooperatives get our reinsurance capacity, and they will start to act similar like a commercial insurer. So they start to operate. They will be entrepreneur. They will start as a commercial insurer as well. That's one part. However, they have a good distribution channel, because they know each and every member. They know them, their members come to the cooperative, and they will charge zero zero commission for the distribution. So in this respect, we changed the whole commercial value chain of the traditional insurance way by simply using the existing social responsibility and responsibility within the members of a cooperative.
Thank you. Collie? Yep, Collie, then Myri.
I would like to respond to two of the questions. One, actually, just extending what Thomas has said, the business model. For a direct insurance company, though we are doing entire agriculture insurance business, but we are a board-run company, and we are also expected to earn some profit. So normally, most of the insurance markets, they operate at, say, property insurance at, say, about 65% a long-term claim ratio. But basically, we are able to push that to something like 80%, give a better value by reducing the transaction costs. One is basically most of our products are linked to the credit, farm credit. And the bankers are very happy to service this product because they're getting the insurance collateral to the lending they're doing, and we pay a very nominal charge to them. And secondly, most of the data we get to estimate the losses, particularly the yield data comes from the government, which we don't have to pay for, and the weather data, 80% of the data is coming from the government sources, which we pay a nominal cost. So these are, I think, two big, reasons why we are able to reduce our transaction cost. But now, I think the regulator, insurance regulator too, actually is, I think, aware of the issues. So they have come out with the micro insurance regulations, which enables small entities like the self-help groups and the micro financial institutions to distribute the product. And we are also now coming up with online buying. Most villages are now have got some internet connectivity. So now at perhaps a zero transaction cost, the farmers can actually go to the ITS center there and can actually buy online. What we're trying to do as for the weather insurance is that farmers, to encourage the farmers to buy insurance, is basically we are trying this in some areas. Those farmers who are buying insurance, we are trying to provide them SMSs, weather forecast, free of cost on their mobiles. So we're using the service providers both from India and abroad, and we found that the farmers are basically very, very interested in this kind of weather forecast. So I think this is really working well, and we are sure this will certainly be going to be a very, very interesting facility. And recently, we now started with a particular bank, S-Bank for grapes for the farmers, where you're going to use the mobile virtual bank. A farmer can create a virtual bank account on a mobile in no time. And we, as an insurance company, have a similar account. So the person actually, through a mobile, actually transfer his amount instantly to our bank account through a service provider. So this is something we are actually trying now for the grapes insurance in some parts of the country. Coming to, I think there's one question on whether the climate change scenario has been kept in mind in designing the weather insurance products. We're basically using the crop growth simulation modeling. Basically, we're using the InfoCrop. We are looking at scenarios, future scenarios, as to how the weather and the yield relationship might change in the context of not only the changing weather, but in the context of the soil type, in the context of the crop husbandry practices, in the context of the planting season. So some of these inputs are actually going into the design of the product. And we are actually backing the data by using the historical data, which is cleaned. And in fact, we have an agency, for example, RMSI actually cleaned us the data and simulated the data using 25 years. They have simulated 100 years data. So we're using a huge amount of simulated data so that we have a very long-term perspective in pricing the products. Thank you.
Mary?
Thank you. I just wanted to pick up a little bit on the issue of on the application of mobile telephony and mobile banking. I think there's a large program in the Pacific with ANZ on mobile telephony, and I think what you've just described in terms of combining mobile banking together with the payment for insurance is one of the ways that could help draw down the premium costs and perhaps respond to the challenge of deployment and market penetration, particularly where transaction costs are drawn up because of difficulty of access to the clients. There was a question that was asked about domestic level